Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
I didn't think we'd ever get here. We're almost on for an hour, buddy.
I know.
Let's go, baby.
People don't appreciate it. DK definitely doesn't appreciate it. I'll tell you that much right now. We got a lot of, just like yesterday, just like last week, like we've got a lot of, like rapid fire has just been loaded lately.
Yes.
I feel like.
Yes, so I agree.
We're packing a lot of punch in rapid fire. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame getting a commitment from Florida international wide receiver Kris Mitchell today is blank.
It's huge. It's huge. And it shows the game plan for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. And we talked about this at the top, and I love it. I think there's a very clear game plan for Notre Dame. They have identified the guys that they want. They're getting them on campus immediately, and they're taking their commitments, and they're making this a destination in the transfer portal. And I think it's fantastic. I love it. And I think arguably they've got the top 3 wide receivers in the transfer portal coming into Notre Dame, and who they have identified as the top quarterback for them coming in, and the top nickel. And they're doing all of this in a matter of like 3 or 4 days, man. Like boom, 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 boom. I love it. I love it.
Number one, he's an outside receiver, which they obviously need. That was an issue this year. Now, the coach of the position was an issue as well. How much of an issue? I'll let you all just make your own decisions on that, because everyone's got their own opinions on who the problem was and all that kind of stuff. I addressed it yesterday. Go back and watch yesterday's show if you want my opinion on that. But this guy, Mitchell, 4th best Pro Football Focus deep ball grade in 2023, 10th in receptions of 30-plus yards. So you're talking about explosive downfield guy. He had over 1,100 yards for the season. And, look, Notre Dame's top 2 wide receivers this year, wide receivers, were Rico Flores Jr. and Chris Tyree. They combined for 53 catches and 876 yards. So this guy alone topped both of those numbers by himself, almost 300 more yards than those 2 guys combined. You throw in Jayden Thomas, you get 251 more yards from him. You get to 1,127. So really, like, this guy has got the production of Notre Dame's top 3 wide receivers by himself.
Yeah.
So like that tells you the kind of guy that they're getting, and they're in the market for even more. There's more guys visiting this week. They're going to get at least 1 more. And again, I would not be shocked if they get 2 more, considering, the kind of guys that they're looking at right now. And there's a difference in getting this kind of guy compared to, like, remember when they got Freddie Canteen a few years back?
Yeah.
It's like, that was like a guy who never really got any shot, didn't have a whole lot of experience. Like, this is a guy somewhat similar, like to Sam Hart, when you look at the production, like a guy coming from a smaller school, he's got production, he's got a chance to make a big step, both on the field, try to elevate his draft stock, and also combined with that, there are going to be many more opportunities for NIL at Notre Dame than there were at Florida International.
100%. Everything you said, he checks a lot of boxes for Notre Dame right now, and Notre Dame checks a lot of boxes for Kris. And I think that's important too. I mean, it's a 2-way street, right? You got to sell these guys on why coming to Notre Dame is going to help them. And I think they must have done a pretty good job of that, because it didn't take very long once they got him on campus for him to commit, right? And I'm hoping that that's the case for the next round of guys that are all coming in tomorrow as well.
Indeed, cheat sheet. Good way to put it. Canteen was a guy. Mitchell is a dude.
At this point, I agree. I think that's accurate. And we're going to see what happens, obviously. But, I'll tell you what, man, from his pictures at least, I don't know if they're all touched up, but the kid's ripped. I mean, he is put together.
Paul, apparently you got here late. He says, reporting that X Watts will play in the bowl. Yes. We had it straight from Xavier Watts's mouth on this show at the start of the show earlier. Yes, indeed. He is playing in the bowl. Still don't know if he's going to declare for the draft or not. More on Xavier Watts coming up here in just a minute. But let's stick with the wide receivers first. Fill in the blank. The word that best describes how you feel about Notre Dame's wide receiver situation heading into the Sun Bowl is blank.
Comfortable. I mean, I'm not like excited. I'm not ecstatic. I'm not worried. I'm comfortable. They got the same amount of scholarship wide receivers going into the Sun Bowl that they had going into the bowl game last year. And, okay, let's go. There's going to be lots of opportunities for guys to make some plays and to make a name for themselves going into the offseason. I'm not worried by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're going to be just fine. They're going to have plenty of guys. They're fine. All good. I'm comfortable with it.
Comfortable, I think, is a good way to put it. Sloppy Joe and Stymie, optimistic, opportunity. I'll say I'm cheating a little bit because I guess I'm using two words, somewhat uncertain, but at the same time, I do feel pretty good. Like Deion Colzie has not done a lot, and it's still like, Deion, but they're getting Deion Colzie back.
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman said he's going to play. And when you look at, what they need, I really would have been curious to see, had Deion Colzie had more opportunities during the season, what that might have looked like for both him and for Notre Dame, considering they needed a guy with that body type on the outside.
Yeah, oh, big time. Big time. Yeah.
And so I feel like this could be a big opportunity for Deion Colzie in this game. And getting Jayden Thomas back. Thomas has been back, but he's never been like that hamstring never completely healed. Hopefully with this extra time off that's able to happen. Like, having dealt with hamstrings myself, it's just, especially when you're trying to do it in short time.
Yeah, exactly.
You just and you can feel when you're coming back, oh man, it feels pretty good. And then all of a sudden you push it one day, especially if it gets a little cold outside, and it's like twinge, all over again in that hamstring. And it's just so hard in the course of the season. But the group of guys that they've got, look, did they lose some talent? Sure they did. But at the end of the day, they didn't have the kind of production that anyone was looking for. I just talked about the fact that their top two receivers, they had 26 and 27 receptions this year. That's like 3 catches per game. So it's not like they lit the world on fire. So I do feel pretty confident in what they've got coming into this game. They've got Colzie, they've got Thomas, they've got Jaden Greathouse, they've got KK Smith. He might get some opportunity in this game as well.
Sounds like
freshman, and Jordan Faison and Matt Salerno. I mean, that's 6 receivers. I feel confident that they can go out there and do a more than serviceable job in this bowl game.
Yeah, me too. It's just not something I'm worried about at all. You should be more worried about the tackles if that's the case. If those guys are going to opt out, be more worried about those guys than you are about the wide receivers. I mean, again, I'm not certain that Oregon State's going to be firing on all cylinders with their personnel either. But if we're just talking about Notre Dame and a faceless opponent, everything's going to be fine at wide receiver for this one game. This one game, they're going to be just fine.
Apparently, we've got people in the chat saying the show keeps freezing up. We haven't had any freezes between us. We're both still.
That's a YouTube
when we've had problems here. One of us will freeze up and the other, that kind of thing. So you're right. It might be like the YouTube thing. I don't know, but we're not having any issues on our end. So there's really nothing.
Sorry, guys.
Hopefully,
we're good on our end. So I don't know what to tell you. We believe me, we have no problem throwing StreamYard under the bus. But I think at this point, it's not their fault. So,
right.
DK says it's Ron Paulus' fault.
Hey, there you go.
There you know.
Fill in the blank. Xavier Watts winning the Bronco Nagurski Award for Defensive Player of the Year is blank.
Surprising yet deserving. I guess I haven't been paying close enough of attention to know that he was a finalist and that they were announcing it, last evening. I just didn't realize.
Well, that's what's weird. It's like I thought they did. What happened to the end of season? When they did
college
the big
football
awards show. I thought that was coming up this weekend or something, right?
Well, apparently the Bronco and Nagurski people are we're doing our own thing.
I guess.
And it was a star-studded event. I mean, it was what was it? Everybody's in tuxedos and everything else. I mean, it was a big deal, and so I was surprised. I was not expecting it, but I think it's well deserved with the season that he put up. Man, no one could be happier. Well, his parents probably. Not many people could be happier for him than I am, just because of all the crap that he had to deal with at Notre Dame, as far as switching positions and trying to play both positions at once and doing all of these different things to finally be settled in at a position and then showing what he's got, man. That was awesome. That's awesome.
I agree. Like, you could have won a ton of money. I don't even think they probably had a betting line on the Bronco Nagurski award coming into the season. But if you had betted on Xavier Watts, like coming into the season, I wouldn't have even put it on Xavier Watts. Like, I would have put it on Benjamin Morrison. Like, that's of the players on Notre Dame's defense based on the season. Like, and that's the guy that people were talking about. And that's exactly like Jesse is talking about Manti Te'o. That's the last time a Notre Dame player won this award. Manti in 2012 when he won almost everything except the Heisman and a couple other, like offensive, like basically if there was an award a defensive player could win, Manti won it
100%.
That year. He hauled in the hardware.
Yes.
But that's what's crazy is like, it's not just how good Xavier Watts was this year and where he came from at the start of training camp to get to where he is this year with all the interceptions and everything he did. Think about the last decade plus of Notre Dame football, and you had guys like Jalen Smith and Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah a couple of years ago who were Butkus winners themselves, but they didn't even win the Nagurski Award. And like, that's the rarefied era that Xavier Watts is in. So you're absolutely right. It is well-deserved for the season that he has, but it's just crazy to think about where he came from to where he is right now to get it. So it's just very well done by him. Very well done.
Nuts. And do we know who the finalists are for the Thorpe Award? Somebody said he didn't win the Thorpe Award, but they haven't announced the winner. So, I mean, is he not even a finalist for that?
I don't know.
I'm trying to look for it, and I'm not having a whole lot of luck. But, that's typical. I'll keep efforting. We'll see.
Okay. I got my Google on right here.
Maybe you'll find it before me.
The finalists are Iowa cornerback Cooper DeJean, Georgia safety Malachi Starks, who was up for the Nagurski Award and didn't win, and Air Force safety Trey Taylor.
Not even a finalist for it.
Nation's best defensive back. So that's crazy.
Yes.
That he didn't even make the finalist for best defensive backs. You better fix your Google machine there, Vince. Like, you can't. Come on, I'm on that right away.
I was silly, and I went to the actual Jim Thorpe Award website, and I can't find who the finalists are. So, whatever.
Chris, I think this might be a good idea. We might just have to buy or ban that spammer, Jesse Stiers. I don't know who that is. Living on the edge out there. Going back to the receivers, Bryce wanted to know where Matt Salerno was this year. He was injured most of the season.
He will be available for the bowl game, though. Yeah. So
he was back, I think, the last 3 games. At least the last 2, if not the last 3.
Definitely the last 2, because he went in there and he was blocking and he was doing some different things. And I don't think he got a catch, but I remember seeing him on the field when I was watching the film. But he's back.
Yeah, Michael says Estime didn't make the finalists for the Doak Walker Award. That we know, and that was total crime. Total crime.
No doubt.
Tommy Guns. I missed whatever the reference was. Not sure if the Elder Stiers knows the reference. I guess I missed that. So here's one that people have been talking about tonight. Tyler Buckner entered the transfer portal, reportedly intends to come back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. He was one of the top lacrosse players in the nation in high school. And actually, I know he had committed someplace to go play lacrosse before he ended up coming to Notre Dame to play quarterback. But there's already talk about him rejoining the football team. This is at large. I don't know if this is actually coming from him or not. So what do you think about that idea, Vince? Doing the Jordan Faison, basically. Tyler Buckner comes back to Notre Dame on a lacrosse scholarship, and maybe he's a walk-on on the football team as well.
I do not like it. As much as I was a Tyler Buckner fan, it's time to turn that page. And if he wants to come back and play lacrosse, that's awesome. I know he was a very, very, very talented lacrosse player in high school. I know that is true. But, if the lacrosse team is going to take him, obviously the lacrosse team is incredibly talented. They're coming off of the national championship. If they think that he can help them, even better. I just think that, hey, go immerse yourself in being a lacrosse guy. Like, that's fine. Go do your thing. I have no ill will towards Tyler Buckner. I think we can all agree going to Alabama probably wasn't the best decision he's ever made. And now he has an opportunity to come back to Notre Dame, get his degree as well, by the way, which I think is a huge reason to be coming back to Notre
That might
Dame.
be a big factor. Like, this is a way around, like, the fact that maybe he couldn't join the football. Like, Marcus Freeman, as I just put that comment up, did say he's welcome back and all that. There's a couple of different things to this. One, there would be a huge time commitment on Tyler Buchner's part. Like, is that what he really wants to do, or does he want to come back and play lacrosse and have a chance to play for a really good lacrosse team? It seems like that's part of his thing, that's what he's going to do. Two, okay, let's say he does do this. Like, he's a scholarship lacrosse player and he walks on the football team. So Tyler Buchner, who was the opening day starter 2 years ago, is just going to say, okay, I'll be the scout team quarterback for a year or two for Notre Dame, because that's essentially the role that he would be thrust into.
What's the point?
Right.
What's the point? I mean, going through all of that to be a backup? Like, there's no point in that. That's why I don't see that being the case. I just really don't. And so, yeah, somebody said there's no scholarships available for lacrosse. I believe Jayden Faison just gave up a scholarship.
There are scholarships, and that was going to be my third point. There are scholarships for lacrosse, but like baseball, they are partial scholarships.
Correct.
And that's why, but my next part to this was going to be, remember, like Jayden Faison, when he stepped foot on the football field and took his first snaps against Louisville, that meant the football team had to give him a scholarship.
Correct.
And
which means he had to give up his lacrosse.
Right. The lacrosse scholarship went away, but now the football team has to commit to a scholarship. So if they were going to go down that road with Tyler Buchner, and let's say it's Riley Leonard going into next year as the starter, I mean, Tyler Buchner would make sense, as like the number 2 quarterback. But if he actually played as the number 2 quarterback,
you have to get
then he's not a walk-on anymore. You've got to commit a scholarship to it.
Right.
And where are you with your scholarship limit? We don't even know where that's going to be right now. So
I just don't know why he would want to. What's the end game of going and knowing you're going to be a backup? I don't understand.
That's exactly it. Like I said,
that.
that's a huge time commitment to just come in and say, I'm going to be a backup and I'm not going to step foot on the field when you're already trying to get a degree at Notre Dame and play another sport full time. That's a huge time commitment. And I don't see it. I don't see it.
No, neither do I. In case you're curious, there's 12.6 scholarships available for men's Division I lacrosse. So 12.6 to spread out however you want to spread it out, but 12.6 is the answer. So, he's not getting a full ride to go play lacrosse, but that's okay because he's literally been going to school for free for 5 years or whatever, 4 years or whatever the year is, right? He's been going to school for free. He can pay a little bit to go to Notre Dame. It'll be okay.
Concur. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Bo Nix, Jayden Daniels, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists.
I think that's probably pretty expected, to be honest with you. I don't know that there's any glaring, omissions, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm not a big fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. being on there. I don't know that he really performed in the big games. But I think that's more of a knock on who was throwing him the football and the play calling, just trying to jam it down his throat. So I just don't think I don't think he belongs with that particular group of people. But if they had to go to 4, they had to go to 4. I mean, that's fine.
Well, Vince,
he's a different 4 for me.
I don't know about you, but I was told that Jordan Travis is the most important quarterback in the country.
Good call. Good call.
If Jordan Travis is that important, why is Jordan Travis not a Heisman Trophy finalist? How did this happen? How did this travesty happen? Not just once, but twice. Like, Jordan Travis and his cast should be up there on that stage this weekend in New York. I get it. People vote for it. And of course, I'm being somewhat facetious here.
But you make a good point.
Because these guys are all deserving. You're right. Like Marvin Harrison, did he really have that? I don't know. But it's just, there's just so much double talk and jive talk going on.
You jive talker.
You jive turkey. You just call me a jive turkey.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Underrated. Definitely.
So who's your
underrated
favorite?
scene.
Who do you think should win it?
I think Jayden Daniels is probably going to win it. Personally, I like Michael Penix a little bit more, but just the numbers and everything that Jayden Daniels has done, I think that he has probably been, I mean, just look at the offense that LSU has. Like you can't knock him for their defense, obviously, and that's why they've lost the games that they've lost. But again, Florida State head to head, Jordan Travis won that game, but I think Jayden Daniels ends up winning the thing this weekend.
I think Jayden Daniels is the most dynamic quarterback out there right now. I do. I think he should win it. I would not be surprised, though, and I would be okay if Penix won it. I think that he is, the best player on an undefeated team, right? And of course, there's the petty side of me that doesn't want Brian Kelly to have coached a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. That is part of it. But I'm also ecstatic, absolutely over the moon that J.J. McCarthy is not a Heisman finalist.
Good call. Good call.
Wow, would that have been terrible?
I think that any hope of that went away in that Penn State game when he had no touchdown passes in that win over Penn State.
Right.
You have to, and they handed off 34 straight times to close the game against Penn State. You can't just be a good quarterback for a really good team. You actually have to be a difference maker. And, these four guys are all definitely difference makers. Jordan Travis is a difference maker too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Be curious to see where he ended up. I'd really be curious to see, like, if you took a recount right now after everything that happened with Florida State over the weekend, if Jordan Travis ends up being a finalist, like if he got some different sentiment from some of these voters based on what happened with the playoff committee excluding Florida State this weekend. Be interested to see.
Yeah, I would be very interested to see that as well. Yeah, for sure.
So on that subject, Stephen A. Smith says if Florida State alum Deion Sanders was Florida State's head coach, they wouldn't have been left out of the playoffs. Do you buy or sell it, Vince?
Wow, that is some serious clickbait. The sad part is
you're right. Right.
Right. The sad part is he may actually be right on this because of the media hoopla that is surrounding Deion Sanders. Now, if he was Florida State's head coach, are they still undefeated? Like, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not 100% sold necessarily on Deion Sanders as a head coach. So I don't know that they would still be undefeated. So what you're saying, you're going to erase the work that the current head coach of Florida State did and just place Deion Sanders as the head coach. Just a little bit of a stretch, but with the way the thing, I can see it being the case. I really could.
I mean, that's the difference. Like, you can put 13 people in a room and they can say that they're not biased, but it's human nature. There's automatically going to be some kind of bias just based on how they feel. And even if it's subconscious bias, I would not be shocked at all.
Yeah.
If I buy this, I completely buy it. That whole factor, especially like if it was like this year and just the groundswell that Deion, just look at the attention. And I know that, again, like that kind of biases people against Deion because of all the attention, the excess, as it turned out, undue attention. But he really helped, he turned a Colorado program that had one win last year that nobody paid attention to for 12 years in the Pac-12. And they got some of the highest ratings in college football early in the season. Now, did those ratings go away as the season went on? Of course, as they started
because they were
losing some games.
Yeah, they were losing.
I mean, right. But not quite in the same ballpark as Notre Dame, but
it'd bring eyeballs.
It is a TV show at the end of the day.
It would bring eyeballs. And look, let's be honest, right? I mean, the college football playoff matchups that we have this year going in are two really, really good football games, and potentially they're two really good football games. They're going to bring a lot of eyeballs. You've got blue bloods all over the place. And if you put Florida State in, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because I think Florida State should have been in, but if you have Florida State, how many people are watching Michigan versus Florida State? Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch that game because it's a foregone conclusion that Michigan's going to win.
A lot more eyeballs on Michigan versus Alabama, and giggity says, I think Alabama was picked to beat Michigan. And, again, like when you start talking about internal biases that people have, like, could you put it past them? Like, not that they openly discussed, like, this is how we're going to, but like someone's going to start, like in these conversations that they had in the room, I could easily, it's like, this is how we're going to kind of maybe get back at old Jim Harbaugh. Like, this is how he's going to maybe get his comeuppance in this whole thing. He's going to be number one, but he's going to go up against Alabama.
Let's not forget where Boo Corrigan went to school, folks. All right. That deep-seated hatred for Michigan it's in his blood. All right.
I don't doubt it. Well, I guess that's it for tonight, Vince.
Oh, are we done?
We are.
All right. My wife's sending me pictures of dinner from upstairs.
We kind of breezed through rapid fire. This was not a
You're right. It kind of was a little bit.
This was not a Steyer's rapid fire like we had last night.
That's okay. I mean, that's okay. But see, we put more emphasis on the syllable of the beginning. All right. Of the, the first part.
That's true.
You and I generally do a lot more at the beginning part. And then rapid fire is just kind of a fun way to end things, that kind of a deal. So maybe it's just opposite when you have a different co-host.
Corned beef got the joke. Now, Sean, nobody called you a JT. Have you seen Tropic Thunder?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Aren't they playing like poker or something? They're like they're down in like a basement or something.
The guy starts shooting the gun. You
Yeah.
jive, turkey.
You call me a jive turkey. Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, that was good stuff.
Yes, stuff. It was.
What is for dinner, by the way, tonight, Vince?
I believe meat raviolis in a meat sauce. So a lot of meat and pasta. Meat and pasta. How could you go wrong? And some Caesar salad.
All right. Well, I don't think there's going to be a show tomorrow because I've got a women's basketball game, but we will be back on Thursday. So look forward to that. And I'm sure a lot's going to happen between now and Thursday as well.
Seriously.
My guess is there's going to be a lot to talk about. So,
I guarantee it.
Yes.
I guarantee it.
So we
a lot of opt-outs, I'm guessing, is what we'll have to talk about on Thursday, is my guess. Yeah.
I think you're right. Thanks to everyone for being here. We appreciate it as always. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe, rate, and review. Jesse, thanks for popping in the chat as well. If he's still hanging out in there. For Vince, I'm Sean, and we will talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.